And we're going to go into broadcast mode. All right, guys, live on air, showtime. We made it. Here we go. For those that are here live, welcome to today's Dealer Refresh web chat. And if you're watching this on a recorded version, welcome as well. We're here to talk about buying used cars, private sellers. And with me today is Mr. Tom Gregg, founder and president at Vehicle Acquisition Network. Also have a couple partners with Vehicle Acquisition Network. Gary Wade, inventory manager, purchasing director at Morries up in Twin Cities, Minnesota. Also have with us Aaron Gomez, remarketing director at Epic Auto Sales in Houston. Gentlemen, welcome. How is everybody?
Good afternoon. Great. Thanks, Ryan.
Well, it's great to have you. Folks, if you're new to Dealer Refresh webinars, or as I like to call them, web chats, we really like to do something different. And we like to bring dealers in, vendors. Tom and Vehicle Acquisition Network. You got to excuse me, I stumbled because I hear a delay, and it messes with your mind when you're talking. But Tom and the Vehicle Acquisition Network have been sponsors of Dealer Refresh, I think for what, over a year, almost a year and a half now.
Yeah, about a year and a half.
Yeah, and it's been really fascinating watching the audience adapt and kind of embrace the message, buying from used cars. 18 months ago, I think it was a new message for the most part, at least with our audience. And now we're seeing engagement continue to pick up. You guys are deepening your relationships with dealers like Gary and Aaron. And that's why we're all here to really talk about the process, the challenges, some of the victories around buying used cars from sellers. So that being said, folks, if you like what you see, you can always opt in to Dealer Refresh webinars by texting Dealer Refresh to 555-888. And if you want information around the used car content, you can text used cars to 555-888 as well. So Tom, why don't we let you kind of kick things off? The four of us have been talking for the past week here and there, interviews and whatnot. What can you share with our audience around the elements to a successful and more profitable used car buy center?
Yeah, thanks, Ryan. And we've been working with buy centers and dealerships for almost 5 years now. So we've had an opportunity to really see a lot of different landscapes, a lot of different processes, a lot of different personnel. And there's really 4 elements that I would say make up a successful either buy center or a buying department. It comes down to really ultimately the people. So I would say have a process, and one that everybody knows the process, everybody follows the process. And having Aaron and Gary on the call today or on the chat really is very helpful because they can speak to their processes and how they do things, which could be totally different, but in their own way, they're having massive success. And we have many dealerships and buy centers we work with, many of which have dramatically different processes. But what really drives the results and ultimately the most success comes down to the 4 elements: kind of having a process, and certainly everybody knowing the process and knowing what to do, how to operate, being solution oriented, having people that don't make excuses, having people that find a way, having people that are not prejudging the sellers and saying, well, that person's crazy for asking $15,000 for a $10,000 car. You have to be solution oriented and know that you are the solution for their problem, understanding that you are likely the best outcome for this person to sell their vehicle. And so that rolls right into attitude. I'd say being solution oriented rolls right into having the proper attitude. And again, having Aaron and Gary on here, they can talk about their people and how their people come to work with a positive attitude. And if you don't have that, if you're negative about the sellers, negative about the process, it's not going to work. So, and then the last thing I would say, be patient. It takes patience, especially to find your process, because as I mentioned, they're very different. What works for Aaron may not work for Gary, and vice versa. So being patient with this, understanding that that you will find the right path that works for you, and not throwing the towel in after a short period of time before you have an opportunity to find out what's working. Because again, being very different and different cultures, they're not going to work for everybody. So again, it's the four things that we see being the most effective methods or the effective components or elements to a buy center is having solution-oriented people, have a positive, a good attitude, being patient, and ultimately having a process is what I would say would be the most important things. And we can pass it over to either Gary or Aaron and allow them to speak about their processes and how they're seeing success.
Yeah, let me chime in there. So folks that are watching, we don't have a slide deck and a presentation here because we're here to discuss these things. So I'll reiterate those. Having a process is better than no process. It's fair to say every dealer does have a process for maybe hitting auctions, taking in trades, but not every dealer has a process for proactively sourcing and acquiring vehicles from used sellers out of the marketplace. So having a process is a starting point. And as we're going to see, Gary's going to share his process with us at Morries. Aaron's going to share his at Epic. And there's some unique differences, but they all embrace those universal elements of having that process, having people in place with the right attitude, the training and the tools. And then the third part of what we'll discuss is that follow-up part of the process, which both Gary and Aaron will be able to speak with. So that said, Gary, the floor is yours. Could you share with us, your process at Morries for sourcing and really generating that inbound demand there at Morris?
Thanks. Our sourcing is I would think probably not very unique. It's we use multiple different lead sources, van being one, trade and marketplace being another, and then SEO word searches and a couple different websites that we run right through Sell to Morries. And we get probably equal number of results and as it comes down to the bottom line from all the different sources, but they'll have very varied differences in numbers of leads that come in. And then how you manage these leads and what you do with them is what makes a difference. All of our leads come in right through our CRM. We use vAuto, but there's all sorts of CRMs out there, but having them all come in to our CRM, they can be managed for follow-up, and they can be managed. I have a unique situation here. We're an independent facility. We have our own building, and all that goes on here is sell to Morries. So it's just a buying center. We aren't attached to any one of our 12 stores. So we are independent that way. I have my own BDC two young ladies that work for me answering the phones, sending out the emails, responding to the texts, and everything that way. I have a staff of buyers, and each one of the buyers is able to make decisions on buying the cars. And then I have my own staff for titling, licensing, and accounting, and wholesale. So we run a little different than a lot of places because we're not in a dealership. But the biggest thing that Tom mentioned, and what we've talked about many times in the past, is having the right people in the right job, motivating them. Each one of my employees has a pay plan that is structured to the results of what happens jointly as a team. Our buyers are all on a commission plan, and our BDC call center young ladies are on a plan where they are both hourly waged and commission on both appointments and purchases that we make. So everyone comes in every day with a plan on what they're going to do. They have expectations that have to be met, and we've set out a very clear and obtainable process that they can get at every day. So we run kind of a very Midwestern loose atmosphere, a very friendly atmosphere. All of our employees, right from the initial calls, answer the phone, or myself answers the phone. I have a real strict 3-ring basis that the phone's never to ring 3 times. I don't care who you're with or what you're doing. Excuse yourself and answer the phone and greet the customer and see what you can do to help them out. And then move on from there. Make the appointment. Anybody can make an appointment and pass it on to the 2 young ladies that go on the calendar. So as far as processes and motivation, that's how we do things. I see you have my website up on the screen. So.
Just curious, the hat, is that a Midwestern hat or is that a Western hat?
it's unlike, as you look behind me today, it's normally to keep the sun off my face, but it's to keep the rain off my head today every time I run outside.
If I knew that, would have had us all wear a hat. I'm on the market for a good Western hat too. So
I think Aaron's got the same hat on his desk somewhere over there.
I have the exact same hat, and that's the second time, but Gary's making me want to go put it on.
So Gary, something you guys do, which is not standard, I'd say most dealers don't do this, is you actually have a dedicated website for private sellers, for consumers to go to sell your car. If I go and search for sell my car or buy my car, and I'm in your area, I'm going to get selltomorries.com. When did you guys launch that?
It's been about 4 years now.
Traffic-wise, has it picked up a lot recently, stayed steady? Maybe you could speak to, how what you see on the website.
We've actually seen a nice increase. We've augmented some of our advertising by adding more and more social media on Facebook advertising. We also we've tried some radio and some TV ads and focused them on sporting events and things like that. And we never really saw a big influx in buying during those months, but we saw a very, very good influx into our website. We also have electronic billboards around the Twin Cities and some static billboards that corporately we rotate, and we get a certain percentage of billboard exposure around town as they rotate the vinyls on the billboards and on the electronic billboards. So when we see that we're part of the rotation through our marketing plan, we see an influx on our searches on our website. So it works.
And Morries constitutes how many locations or dealership or franchises?
We have 12 locations, 11 here in the Twin Cities and 1 outside the Twin Cities currently, and we just were awarded a Honda franchise in Wisconsin and a Jaguar Land Rover here in the Twin Cities that we're building, in a new Lincoln store right next to me, actually, that we're building.
So, Tom, you might be able to speak to this, but Gary as well. Dealerships like Morries, multiple locations, multiple franchise. In effect, you could be like a mini CarMax. You can really put a process, a system together where all the stores are working in tandem to source and move cars around. For single stores, maybe 2-3 store auto groups, they don't really have that luxury. Any insight for maybe some of the single store operations?
Well, Gary, you probably can speak a little bit more than I would be able to about your wholesale operation, because ultimately it comes down to there's no such thing as a bad car, as we've been heard in the car business, just a bad price on a car. So there really isn't a vehicle that Morries won't buy, because if it's not a vehicle that would fit the retail strategy, then there is a wholesale outlet for it. So Gary, can you speak a little bit more in detail about your process for wholesaling?
Sure. We'll buy anything from $100 to $100,000 on any given day, is what I tell our customers. Somebody's got a car that's sitting in the weeds next to the barn here in Minnesota, we'll go send one of our towing companies to drag it out, and I'll get them $100 if they can hand me a title. If they can drive it here and it's on its last leg and ready to go to the crusher, I'll pay them $150. It's something that we look at on every vehicle, but we also buy cars that we know just aren't going to fit into the retail mix here under our Buy Happy program with warranty on any of our used car lots. So we know going in that if we can buy it at the right price, that we'll have a wholesale plan I've got a young lady here that works for me. That's all she does is wholesale for the group. And she takes, a certain percentage of cars every month right to the auction for us, and we do quite well on it. So there's an exit plan on every car that walks in the door.
Can you comment on your profitability of used cars, or rather your wholesale per month?
Yeah, it's shocks a lot of dealers when we start talking close to $1,000. So
$1,000 a car for wholesale.
mm-hmm.
And how many wholesales do you do a month from the buy center?
It averages right around 18 to 22%, depending on the month of our total volume.
Tom, Gary was speaking on something that we've written about, I think on Dealer Refresh, where you don't want to just focus on individual profitability of each unit. You need to look at it as a whole. You're going to take some losses here and get some big gains there. Gary, is it fair to say that's what you're speaking to? You're gonna buy whatever you need to, because you're going to move it somewhere. You're going to move it quickly, and so you don't look at it. Oh, I'm going to lose $300. I'm not going to do this. You're going to take that loss because you're going to make it up somewhere else.
It all depends on, if it's a piece that can be retailed in one of our stores. If I can make it work, and it goes into one of the stores and the stores say, well, I can't quite pay that much, but I look at it as, the forward profit on that unit is so much greater keeping it in one of our stores and retailing it, that if I can make it up by wholesale and something else, I don't even worry about it. I don't give it a second thought. I'm kind of a big picture guy where I look at it and scoop everything together as you work during the month, knock off what it costs you, and at the end of the month, if you got something left, guess what? The bottom of the pyramid is the biggest part. So, that's how I look at it, and it's worked quite well. So.
Okay, great. I'll take a moment to pause here and digress, folks. Hopefully everything's coming through loud and clear. Audio, video, and able to hear anything. Tom, just on a funny note, are you wearing those wireless
I am.
Apple things? You are.
Yeah, so it's a lot easier to hear, and
they look like
earrings,
shark teeth earrings. Yeah.
Okay. Now they come out.
Ah,
yeah.
bones coming out of your ears. So let's segue into Aaron. Folks, just to recap from Gary, they've got a dedicated website marketed and geared for consumers looking to sell their car. They drive people to the site. They have videos up there. Here's the FAQ page. And I think, Gary, you said everyone that comes into your funnel, you send them to this video so that you could really set the expectation, correct?
Correct. Every email we send out of the dealership communicating with customers, whether it's a follow-up email or whether it's an email inviting them in, has the link to this YouTube video that explains our process, and it also has a link that you see right there, the Get Started link, that takes them into a pricing tool. But we tend to try to steer somebody to that short YouTube video whenever they have a question, and we send that out on text as we send it out on emails. And if you take a look at it, it explains exactly who we are, what we do, how to get to us, and to the point where we even literally drive them here off the interstate on the video. So it makes it pretty easy to find who we are and what we are.
Yeah, it's a great video.
Good. So folks, when you get a chance, hit sell to Morries. Look for the FAQ, which is right up here, FAQs, and you'll be able to watch that video that's right here. Maybe even test out the process. So, all right, Gary, well, thank you. Aaron, thanks for being patient. You're down in Texas. You are running pretty much an independent operation, very wholesale driven. So a whole different context from where Gary is. What can you share with us about your process and your your strategy for sourcing used?
One of the biggest differences, I mean, Morries has multiple locations. We have one location, and as Gary said, he's not set up to be a profit center. He's just trying to buy cars, whereas we are actually actively trying to buy as many cars as we possibly can, to really be a profit center. I mean, we want to keep the cars that match our retail parameters, but we will buy anything just very similar to Gary for the $150, $100 car. But with our disposition channels, we know that we're going to make money on these cars. And, something to add to our bottom line as a dealership is, the numbers are almost identical. We're going to make, a range on our vehicles, but at the end of the month, we're going to have that, close to $1,000 profitability per unit that we touch from a vehicle that was not purchased at an auction, from a vehicle that we purchased from a customer off the street, which in turn gives us every chance to sell them another car. We've seen results on our retail side of the traffic coming in to sell us their cars. I mean, they see nice cars on our lot, and it's just listen to Gary's talk. We've talked a lot, but I mean, it's the same type of setup that is just a different mentality and going for it. Excuse me, gentlemen.
Hey, we've been looking for this key for 30 minutes.
Oh, Aaron's hustling, getting called in.
Had it. He just had it.
No problem.
Sorry about that, guys.
It's all right. I have your Facebook page up here, Epic Auto Wholesale. We know you run a Facebook for retail. How does this asset play into your process?
We have a fun atmosphere here at the dealership, and we try to exonerate that on social media. If you look through, we're just really celebrating everybody that comes in and buys a car from us. I mean, or actually sells a car to us. You can actually see one negative review. It has nothing to do with our wholesale operation. Somebody just randomly decided to. That's kind of retail carryover, but we get a lot of actually. Most of us have dealer friends that see things like this. I'm sure you guys have seen the stuff. Our major partners in the automotive retail side, they see the cars, they call us, so we're generating wholesale leads without pitching cars or sending lists to our dealers. They see a cool car that we just bought, they want it, we get calls about that. That first car that you're seeing right now, that CTS, I've got a dealer that called me, said he wanted it, he wanted details. I told him the details. That was a lead that we got off of Vehicle Acquisition Network, and it's gotten washed and it's sold already. We didn't even get that to the sale. So it generates a lot of our social media presence generates a lot of traffic. I get text on the website from people using the message function. I get those 24 hours a day. That's another vehicle we bought from a customer. We have dispositions just like I'm sure every major retailer does. We put our vehicles up on Smart Auction, OBE, Odessa, Edge Pipeline. So we have disposition channels for wholesale, but again, we would have retailed this truck if we hadn't sold it in 2 days. So for us, it's a numbers game. We'd love to be at the numbers that Gary is at, but we're getting there. And some of the key takeaways that we've experienced is that, just like you spoke about in the beginning, we have to have a process. We have to have those dedicated people, and just by the small tweaks that we've had in our personnel and actually dedicating some people to making the phone calls and really managing this like a side business within the dealership is netting significant results. We're dealer partners with Manheim Houston here in Houston. As you're seeing there, they're promoting our lane. We kick off every Tuesday in northwestern corner of Houston, and we just try to keep it fun here. And just like Gary's operation, we're trying to buy every single car we can. Does
Aaron,
not
what is this
$100
giveaway?
to
Can you speak to that?
I'm sorry.
Aaron, what is this giveaway? This is it $100 or $1,000
well,
for a car? What's going on here?
That's just something that we do at Manheim, Houston. Whenever we're running our wholesale cars through the lanes, we offer $100 transportation assistance to anybody that buys from us. Something that dealers experience, no matter where no matter what auction they buy from in the country, they're going to have transportation and auction fees, which you don't encounter buying from customers. And we just throw in a $100 gift card to anybody that buys from us to help offset some of the costs that they encounter buying from an auction.
Is that the $100 gift card different from obviously the $1,000 giveaway?
We up the ante with a increasing pot. So some lucky auction bidder will get $1,000 on any random car. You got to be in the lane or online to get the details of our weekly giveaways.
Well, it looks like he's having fun.
Yeah, no, it's again, that's what we started this doing. So even though we're getting more streamlined and adding more processes, we're just still trying to keep our roots. And I think the customers are having fun when they're doing it. We've got a lot of feedback. It's all about the people. At Texas Direct and sometimes at CarMax or no matter where you go, you may get caught in that monotony of, I'm just take it or leave it and here's your check. But we're actually having a good time because most of our, all of our employees, just like Gary's employees, are tied into the success of the wholesale department. So, there's nothing better than buying a car, giving somebody great value, and turning around and making some money on it yourself. It's increased the profitability of the dealership, and here we are tracking to have our best month yet, and we just plan on increasing that month to month until we have to add a whole nother building like Gary.
There you go. All right, great. So, in the interest of time, because our goal is to keep this under 30 minutes, and I think we're approaching that. Tom, could you segue us into the significance of follow-up? And then we'll have Gary and Aaron speak briefly on their follow-up process. But this is something you continue to stress. This is, a pillar to your success with this strategy. Oh, you must be on mute.
Oh, there you go. Is that better?
There it
okay.
is.
Yeah, follow-up is critical. When we deliver messages to sellers, it's usually the first day or the first week that they have their vehicle posted online. And when they first post a car, typically they get into the process of selling their vehicle on their own with the anticipation that it'll be fast, easy, and they will get more money than the dealer or wholesaler can offer. We know, even as dealers, that the average time to sell a car is typically 60 days on average. Consumers, it's longer, it's closer to 90 is the average. And primarily being that they have most cases, a full-time job, a family, and things that revolve around this, they're doing on the side. So it takes longer to sell a vehicle from a consumer than it does for a dealership. So, and understanding there's many things that go into and struggles that dealers have in selling cars, consumers, don't really anticipate the time in doing this. So the reason that it's important for a dealership to follow up with consumers after this is that this anticipation and expectations of selling cars being fast, being easy, and getting a lot of money is often not a reality. And so it's important for dealerships to stay with these sellers and to keep following up. And as Aaron pointed to about the way that they do business, that they do it kind of fun. And so being in front of the seller repeatedly, but in a positive and polite and professional way is paramount. Because eventually the sellers may get old, may get tired of doing part of the process and may be willing to sell. And if there is somebody that's there, it's important for the dealership to be in front of them. And it kind of ties into not discriminating about the pricing that the seller has, thinking, well, if this vehicle is $15,000 is the asking price, and really it's only worth 10. It's the same as dealerships asking too much for a car. The dealers that ask too much for vehicles don't often get many phone calls. They don't get many leads, and nobody's coming in and cracking the door. So those will often end up at the auctions and transact for less than they would have if the vehicle would have been priced correctly early on. So again, I bring that up because it's important for dealers to not discriminate based on the pricing and to stay with these sellers throughout the journey. So following up is an absolutely critical element to buying cars for consumers.
Gary, anything to add to that?
Sure. One of the things that we are very proficient at is follow-up, and I think it's critical to our success. And once we came up with a very direct plan for our follow-up, we saw our volume change dramatically. And what we did was working within our vAuto CRM and having all the leads come into vAuto CRM first before we even do anything to it has made it very easy for our young ladies that do that. We planned and put together dynamic strategies for the different lead sources, because the sellers on these different lead sources actually have different expectations. So the leads that come in through the vehicle acquisition network, we find that we contact them right away, almost immediately. As soon as the lead from van comes in, we make a phone call or reach out an email. But one of the things we do with those folks is that the first day they get an email, they get a phone call and a text, and we do a subsequent 3-day plan with them that does a couple of those each a day. But then we really go after that lead 5 to 10 days, and then at 17 to 21 days, real hard, where we're after them with 3 emails, 3 texts, 3 phone calls per day. And we find that those folks have by then had enough of the lunacy of some of the online selling services and the problems that come with it, that they're done with it. They're tired. They want to get rid of the car. So we find that we have a great success with them, hitting them really after the initial calling. Whereas the folks that come in through the trade-in marketplace lead source, we're with them immediately, and we go after them immediately because their offer from trade-in marketplace is 72 hours, so it's timely. So they're thinking that way. Their mindset is that way, that they want to be contacted right away, and they contact us right away. They want to take advantage of that money that they've been offered, or see what we can do to beat it for them. Because one of the things we talk about is that, you know, we only give about 3% of the cars that we take in through that source monthly to trade-in marketplace on any given month. Usually it's even lower than that. So 97% of the time we're able to beat what they're offered from that and buy the car from them. So we use that as a big tool. Where our other SEO sources and our website sources, they're coming to us right away, so we're contacting them right away. So the plan for follow-up is once again very immediate, but then we look at those sources plus the trade-in marketplace sources on the people that we weren't able to either reach, or on the people that we did reach that maybe came in and we weren't able to put together a deal together. We then follow up with them at 14 and at 21 and at 30 days in a little bit of a softer pattern because they've had contact with us. So we feel them out and see what their most likely way to respond is. That way we put the dynamics to it and put the matrix to it and seen which way has worked. And after 4 years of trial and error, it's worked out pretty well now. So having a plan for each one of the different lead sources has made a big difference in how we can move forward with those customers.
So you got to know your channels and then tailor that process around those different channels, how these folks are coming in. Okay. Aaron, 60 seconds. What can you speak to us on follow-up specifically?
You know, we're actually just so new to the technology that we are doing the same thing that Gary just described, a trial and error. I mean, at 10 days, we're following up harder, but we're finding the same exact thing at that 20 to 30 day mark. People have been talked to, they've gotten frustrated. They haven't sold it on their own. If they're asking too much, just like Tom described, cars worth 10, they want 15. They're a lot more manageable and pliable at day 30 when that car is still sitting there and they're still paying the insurance and they're still, just collecting oil on their driveway. They're ready to get rid of it by then. So if they have the means and the opportunity, then we start seeing a whole lot of more motivation to sell. That's where we're capitalizing the most. They've usually got a catfish story or a scam story attached to their vehicle, and it's just great to go to some place like Sell to Morries or to Epic in Houston and be able to just walk away with a check and take their picture in front of the flagpole and, be on their way. I mean, we give people Uber rides home, so that they really like that because they don't have to worry about somebody coming and picking them up.
It's a cool idea.
Our follow-up is again, just trying to keep it fun. We're still in the great trial and error phase, but if I could say anything to any dealership out there that's trying to, acquire more vehicles without the, the rigor of auction purchases and the frustration of auction purchases, you got to have dedicated people to these processes. Just like Gary said, you got to have the marketing, the girls that call the leads, you got to have the follow-up, and you got to have the dedicated buyers, somebody that's truly putting a number and being passionate about that success to that business. You got that, and I think that's probably a snapshot of what Gary's doing, and that's a snapshot of what we're aspiring to do.
I think that says a lot. You can't just put a trade-in tool or widget on your website and then go tell people to buy their car and just let them come in. You got to put the process in place, the people, and as you said, just because they don't bite, right away, day one or day two, stay with them and know that there's a 60-day point, 30-day or 60-day point where they're going to come through and want to sell you their car.
100%.
Okay. Great. Folks, I'm going to wrap this up. So Gary and Aaron, thanks again for being here,
Thanks,
sharing, your experiences with the Dealer Fresh audience here, the conversations leading up to this. Aaron and I last month had a phone interview, and that's how we initially got acquainted. And we're going to be featuring that next week on Dealer Refresh. There'll be about a 3-minute interview, video of our interview that'll be on the site. And then there's also an extended, fuller version. It's closer to 15 minutes for, as I say, for the real diehards that want to get into what Aaron and I were talking about, the process. Tom, could you real quick, we have the Vehicle Acquisition Network site up, buywithvan.com. Could you maybe real quick let folks know why they would want to inquire with you and what they could expect?
Absolutely. We make the process of reaching private sellers very efficient. So if you're looking for information on how to get more details and just more private sellers like Gary and Aaron are currently experiencing, go to buywithvan.com, fill out the contact form there, and we're happy to provide you more information.
Okay, great. And Van, as we know, is, well, not as everybody knows, is sold in market exclusivity. So you have to do this analysis to see what you can do for your partners, potential partners. All right, great. So folks, I'm going to call it a wrap. Again, stay tuned for more Dealer Refresh webinars. We will be promoting them in our newsletters like you see here, typically in the blue box. We will make a edited down version of this webinar, and that'll be featured in the next week or so on Dealer Refresh. Full recording will be available on the page where you originally signed up. We'll replace the sign up form with the full video. And that being said, I think I mentioned you can opt into Dealer Refresh at 555-888. You can also opt in to use cars at 555-888. Get Aaron's interview, and also our more profitable Auto Buyer's Handbook. Guys, thanks again. Folks, thanks for joining us. It's been great. And we'll look forward to seeing you again soon.
Sounds good.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.